Welcome to the demo on leveraging large language models to use their capabilities and interact with clinical trials data that's available in ClincialTrials.gov. So as I sort of talked in the article, there's sort of two capabilities of this demo that I want to show and the use of LLMs. One is obviously pulling data from ClincialTrials.gov, grounding the LLM on that data, and then letting the user interact with that data by asking natural language questions. People who are very creative, they can get the answers that they want, that kind of thing. And the second demo that I'll show in a future video is this capability around a trial match or looking through a cohort of patient information and then picking a particular trial or a study from ClincialTrials.gov and trying to do a match and use the LLM to do the match. In the first part, I will show you how users can pull in data from ClincialTrials.gov and ask questions of it. This uses in the back real-time API available on ClincialTrials.gov to pull the data. So let's work through an example. Suppose I'm interested in in studies that deal with weight loss, for example. So this is real-time information. These are actual studies that are in ClincialTrials.gov. The one thing I do, since this is a demo, is there are over 2,700 studies that just meet the weight loss keyword for condition or disease. But given this is a demo, I only pull in like the first 5 and show the first 5. Let's further narrow it down with a particular treatment or an intervention. In this case, I just put the drug Ozempic in, and it pulls in 4 studies, and so on and so forth. I can put in other criteria. So, for example, if I want to just work on studies, I'm interested in studies that are only recruiting at this point, I can click recruiting, and in this case it seems that these are the 4 studies that are recruiting. Now that I have the subset of the studies that I'm interested in, I can sort of start to ask questions about these studies, and this is where the use of the LLM comes to play. So, for example, I can just ask a simple question: who are the lead sponsors? Just to show you how this sort of works. So it goes in and you have this information here. I just wanted to make sure that the LLM pulls in the right information. So what's actually happening is the LLM is grounded in this data that we've filtered and narrowed it down, and it's answering questions based on that data set. Now I can ask further questions like, what is the intervention studied? What is the intervention studied in these trials? Let's see what happens when I put that in. So GPT is looking through, and here are the interventions that are studied in these trials. So study 1, semaglutide in a placebo. Study 2, this is what is being studied. Study 3, this is what is being studied. Study 4, this is what is being studied. Great. Now, if I want to just I'm interested in knowing other things about this. I can go and say, what is the inclusion criteria for study ID? Let's say that's what I'm interested in, and I ask it for it. Then again, GPT is the language model is able to understand what I'm asking. It goes in, it says that the inclusion criteria for that study is it's 18 years of age and under 65 years, BMI is over 27, and other things that the study outlines as the inclusion criteria. So this is a very natural way for people to interact with this data and just kind of ask some questions like they would of it. One of the things that I sort of try to do is if after a subset the user is interested in asking detailed questions about a particular study, then in this demo I show how they can click the study detail. And when they do study detail, one of the things that I do is I now the user is able to ask questions of a particular study. One of the things that I also ground the data is to pull in relevant published articles from PubMed, if there is one that exists, and you will actually see it, and that PubMed information will be part of what the user queries. Now, since these are all studies under which people are just recruiting, there's no PubMed articles published yet, but I can show you, I can go back and I can pick a different different criteria, and just, since articles usually get published after a study is completed, so we could go pick a study there, and if the study has any PubMed articles, it'll sometimes pull it in if there is a PubMed article that is being referenced in the study. So for example, as we see in this study, there are 2 PubMed articles that have been published, and you can go see what those articles are. But the cool thing that this demo does is it uses some of the data from the PubMed articles as part of grounding information that's being fed into the LLM. The whole idea is now the user can ask natural language questions of this study, and and also the article information that's along with it. So let's say who was the lead sponsor of this study. So clearly it says this was who the lead sponsor of the study was. We can ask it, what was the eligibility criteria for the study. So it's parsing through all the information that we provided it, and it says that this was the eligibility criteria for the study. So you can also ask it some questions about the PubMed article. We can just try it. What is the summary of the PubMed articles? So again, the idea is we ground the LLM with data that's relevant for a particular study and let the user ask natural language questions. So this is beautiful. So what it did was there were 2 PubMed articles as you saw in the study. So what GPT did was it took the article 1, and then it went through. It just summarizes what was published in that study, and then it took article 2, and then it summarized what was in that study. So this is a very natural way for people to ask kind of the questions that they want of the study, and a lot more can be done with it. But the whole idea was you can use large language models to allow users to interact in a natural way with both the clinical trials information, to sort of identify a set of studies that they are interested in and just start asking questions, or go in detail and then ask questions about a particular study. So the data sources for this are obviously ClincialTrials.gov, from which I pull in the data using a API, and similarly with PubMed, pull in the relevant articles that match a particular study, and then use a sort of a condensed version of both that information, or a summarized version of both that information, to ground the GPT model. When you actually go to implement this in production, there are many ways in which you can do it. You can sort of, instead of querying this real time and processing that data, you can pre-process this data, and you can build a vector search vector database based on creating the embeddings in this sort of information, and then use a vector search algorithm first to narrow down a subset of information that you then grounded with LLM. There's so many more techniques that you can do that how you ground the data. This all broadly fits in the class of retrieval augmented generation, or the RAG pattern, or the DAG pattern that you hear about. But the idea is you can sort of ground the LLMs with this. There's been no specific fine tuning that's been done on these LLMs. It's just pretty much using their capability for what it is, but then using these data augmentation techniques to ground the LLM in the data that we provided with. So hopefully this showed you a way in which you can use the power of the LLM to create a more natural way to interact with clinical trials data. In the next demo, I will show you a way in which we can do some study matching based on the capabilities that's within LLMs as a demo. Thank you.